Late 19th century Calcutta was a city balancing ancient traditions with rapid modernization. The streets hummed with new industry, Western science, and intense intellectual debate. Into this environment came Narendranath Datta. He possessed a brilliant, analytical mind and approached the concept of spirituality with the ruthless logic of a trained scientist. He sought out the most respected religious scholars of his day and presented them with a simple, direct test. He would look them in the eye and ask, "Sir, have you seen God?" Time and again, the scholars deflected, offering abstract philosophies instead of a straight answer. The stalemate broke in an unexpected place, a college literature classroom. While discussing the concept of a poetic trance, his professor mentioned a local temple priest named Ramakrishna, who allegedly experienced genuine states of ecstasy. Intrigued by the rumor of a so-called madman, the skeptic decided to investigate. He refused to accept blind faith as a virtue. If a spiritual leader made a claim about the universe, he demanded it meet the exact same burden of empirical proof as a scientific fact. The investigation led him a few miles north of the city to the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. This quiet riverfront sanctuary felt entirely removed from the noise and strict logic of Calcutta. Here he found Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Unlike the highly educated scholars from the city, Ramakrishna was a simple, illiterate temple priest dressed in plain cloth. The young student wasted no time. He sat before the priest and deployed the exact same test that had stumped everyone else. "Have you seen God?" The priest didn't hesitate. He looked directly at the young man and replied, "Yes, I have seen God. I see him as I see you here, only much more clearly." The absolute, unflinching certainty of that answer stopped the student cold. For the first time, someone had met his impossible standard with a direct, experiential claim. The skeptic realized he finally had a hypothesis worth testing. The tests quickly escalated from verbal to physical. During a subsequent visit, Ramakrishna suddenly stepped forward and placed his right foot on the student's chest. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. The walls of the room and the temple garden appeared to dissolve into a dark void. The physical world vanished, forcing the young scientist to confront a tangible power he could not rationally explain. Still, the skepticism persisted. Later, Ramakrishna claimed that his spiritual experiences had physically altered his nervous system, to the point where simply touching a metal coin caused him agonizing pain. This was a testable claim. When the priest was away, the student sneaked in and slipped a silver coin underneath the mattress. The priest returned and sat down. Instantly, he sprang back up in visible agony, his body reacting like he'd been struck by an electric shock. The hidden coin was revealed. Rather than taking offense at the trick, the priest was delighted. He actively encouraged his disciples to test his statements, as a money changer tests a coin. Rigorous investigation doesn't destroy the truth. It provides the physical foundation required for an unshakable belief. Over the next 5 years, the dynamic shifted. While the student continued to test the master's words in the crucible of reason, he was also watching the master's life, noticing how the priest responded to his stubbornness with constant patience and a lack of ego. To see if his student was drawn to the knowledge or the man, Ramakrishna initiated a final psychological trial. For an entire month, he stopped speaking to him. No eye contact, offered no greetings, and gave no instruction. Despite the lack of intellectual stimulation or personal validation, the student kept coming back to the temple day after day. He sat quietly in the room, seemingly indifferent to the master's silence. Finally, Ramakrishna broke the silence and asked why he continued to visit if he was being ignored. The student answered that he didn't come for the lectures. He came because he had grown to love the person who sat before him. This realization marked a shift from clinical observation to a permanent bond. The skeptic had spent years looking for flaws in the priest's logic, only to find himself anchored by the priest's character. In 1885, the teacher-student dynamic shifted into one of patient and caregiver. Ramakrishna was diagnosed with terminal throat cancer, a condition that soon made it difficult for him to speak or swallow. The student channeled his energy into the practical work of nursing the man he had once interrogated. He managed the household at Kasipur and cared for the master's physical needs as his strength faded. In his final days, the dying priest called his student to his bedside. Through a final, quiet transfer of energy, he entrusted his mission to the person who arrived years earlier, intending to expose him as a fraud. This is where the student became Swami Vivekananda. Empowered by the master's final instructions, he would soon travel to the West to represent India at the 1893 Parliament of Religions, carrying the priest's message to a global audience. He arrived at the temple as a skeptic demanding proof. He left as a messenger, spending the rest of his life building the institutions that would carry his teacher's name across the world.